Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome you to our virtual meeting of the VEM Committee this day, the 11th of November. Thank you to those members of the public that will be joining us on YouTube. Can I, a little plea from the chair, please, to councillors and officers alike, when you're speaking, if you could actually show yourself, and maybe for the members of the public that are watching that maybe not aware of the roles that we all undertake, whether it's an officer or a councillor, in that your initial comment, just state who you are. So the members of the public, I've had some feedback on that they sometimes are not aware of what capacity a person's participating in the meeting. So a little request from myself. So my first item of the agenda today is 504/20. That's the declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest, and I'm quite happy to receive any now, or as we arrive at an item. Do we have any, colleagues? Okay, thank you very much. Item 505/20. Apologies for absence. Over to Chris Crimmins, who's our minute secretary.
That's from Councillor Barretto. That's the only one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we're core, Chris.
We are.
Thank you very much. Okay, that moves us swiftly on to item 506/20, and that's to approve the minutes. Now we have two sets of minutes today, colleagues. We have from our meeting held on the 14th of October, and then we have the special council which we held on Wednesday, special VEM committee, which was Wednesday the 21st of October. So I'll take the meeting the 14th first. Please shout if you wish to raise a matter. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12. Can I move the minutes, colleagues?
Move the minutes, Mr. Chairman. Councillor.
Thank you. That was quite a useful exercise for myself because it dispels the rumour I can only count up to 10.
Hi there. Hello, Chair. Can I just say that I managed to get in? Sorry for the delay. Thank you.
Good to have you here, Councillor Barretto. This moves us on. We're just at the stage where we're doing the minutes. We're now on to the minutes of our special VEM meeting, Wednesday the 21st of October. Page 1, page 2. May I move the minutes, colleagues?
Move the minutes, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Brenda Cameron.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, from that, I'm going to move us swiftly on to item 507/20, and we had action points coming forward. I believe you've had copies of both of these. We have a venue waiver application form to approve, and the second item on that was the marketing campaign plan example. David, I don't know at this point you want to come in and say anything particularly on either item?
No, not necessarily. It's just that we do need to approve the venue hire waiver application form. What I've tried to do, Chair, as you look at the slides as we go through, I'm doing as was also actioned at the last meeting, but the action is ongoing, and we've got to talk about venue review at a later agenda, at a later meeting. Sorry. But one of the councils that I was looking at actually did the decision required as an aid to councillors at meetings. So hopefully that might prove useful. So as it says there, we're really looking to discuss the distributed documents, and that we do need to approve the venue waiver application form so we can use it going forward. The venue waiver application form will consist of all the pertinent information from the potential hirer, but it also has details from the office that the committee can review when we bring it to a VEM committee in terms of hire costs, staff costs, any other additional costs that might. So we get a clear steer of the value the hire that we're contemplating giving for free. So hopefully that form makes sense, and it will be an aid in the future when we get such applications. The marketing campaign plan.
David.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you like to take those two matters separately? What I'd like to do is invite colleagues in at that point so we can box one area off at a time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm going to open the floor up to colleagues. Let's see if I can see if we've got any hands up in the chat.
Got a hands up from Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, David. Just a couple of points on what you've said so far. Firstly, kind of a side point really to the action points, but I've made the point as a chairman of a committee myself that it's really, really useful to know what we want to get out of an agenda item. So I really welcome your suggestion there about including decision required, because ultimately we are here to make decisions. So particularly for the chair, but also for other members, if we could be guided on what the purpose is and what the hoped for outcome might be, I think that's a really welcome addition. The only point I had about the waiver form specifically, I was having a read through and it all looks absolutely fine. Is there an option for people to fill this in electronically? Obviously, we're trying to sort of reduce paper and all that sort of thing and streamline processes as a council. And it did strike me that there were 3 pages there. Will people literally be emailed this, have to print it off, scan it in, send it back? Or is there a simpler way that they can fill in this form? I was just looking at it and thinking, crikey, that's 3 pages for every one of these requests. So I was just curious. Thank you.
Well, it's a good time as we're looking at the website review anyway, that we can look at most of our forms to be digital. I remember when I joined the council a few years back, our application form to hire our venues was about 15 pages long. It was embarrassing to give them a copy of War and Peace just to hire the place. So yeah, so we've hopefully fine-tuned it down to the bare 3 pages, but we will look at it to be digital, Terry. So that's something we'll look into in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? I can't see any other hands up in the chat. Okay, so David, to be clear, you're looking for us as members to approve this document for future use?
Yes, it's our document to be used for the VEM committee. So really, it's not a recommendation or a resolution. Really, it's just a basic approval that the application is fine to use. Okay.
Well, I've also poured over. I didn't pick up on the moving it digital, but I would support that, particularly if we're keen to do environmental and support environmental going forward, a strategy going forward. I think this is key, moving stuff online. So I for my part, am supportive of using this document. How would you like to do this, colleagues? I can quite happy just go around the room and ask you individually, or would you like to put your hands up? Agree in the box. Thank you, Councillor Canham. I can see you're on board with this. You've put a comment. Thank you, Terry. That's Terry and Brenda. I'm just waiting on Carla and Chris. Chris agrees as well. Thank you. Oh, Stuart, I do apologise. I missed you. Stuart's agreed. So we're just waiting on young Carla. You have, I know she might be having some technical issues, David. So you have a majority there, so that's the way forward. Oh, and there's a typo. There's a typo in ticket on hire. So I'm sure that will all get tidied up before it goes out to the public. Would you like to move us on to the second part, David, the marketing campaign plan?
Yes. So when we discussed the marketing strategy at the last meeting, there was suggestions that we try and drill it down into actual marketing campaign plans that we observe and produce. And this is just a circulated copy of the kind of form that we try and keep as a checklist internally. It's not anything that needs to be approved as such. Hence the decision required is just really to discuss the document and make comments. It's an ongoing internal form that if you look at it, we've actually used the line podcast in the marketing campaign checklist. In actual fact, we won't start doing those until January of 2021 because we're still developing our little media suite. You know, it will be something that we look at checklisting as part of our ongoing campaigns for events. So it's really just observations from the councillors on.
Thank you. So at that point, I'm going to offer open. Terry.
Thank you. Just a couple of points. Firstly, just a sort of general observation. The agenda item and the slide on the screen says marketing campaign, which implies to me that it's a sort of generic marketing campaign. And then the form itself talks about events. And I just wanted to be clear that what we're really talking about is it's a campaign for, it could be a new service, it could be a new project that the council's working on. It's not specifically just for events, because what I'm never clear about is who is responsible for marketing different things that the council are up to. For a really good example this week, the regilding of the Thomas Paine statue. It's not an event as such, it's a service the council's providing, but we should be clear on how we are going to promote and market that as a council. So I just wanted to make sure that where it says event on the form, actually it's really about something rather than specifically an event. And I would quite like to see a few more things listed there in detail. So on social media, you've broken it out and included the different aspects of social media. And there's a couple of things listed for traditional media. I don't see the rotunda listed there, and the rotunda still seems to have issues with out-of-date posters. So, you know, it's a marketing tool. I would like to see it listed there. We don't list our only tourist community information service in the town on there. We don't list the names. I don't know how many community magazines are in Thetford, but I can think of one that's not listed. So perhaps just a bit more detail so that we can avoid what has been happening, which is missing out different ways of advertising. And I think if we included them on the form, that would help with that. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm really sorry, my camera's not working. What is guerrilla marketing? Have I got to come down dressed up in, you know, in camouflage gear and start throwing hand grenades at people?
Yeah, feel free.
If you feel as if you need to, Chris, that's absolutely fine. We can always purchase a costume for you. Guerrilla marketing, an example of guerrilla marketing is actually a flash mob. Do you know what a flash mob is? So Thetford players, for instance, who hold their panto here, if we were involved in a production like that, then they do things around Christmas light switch on, where they do little things in the street and things that would come under guerrilla marketing. Just to go back to Terry's points, I absolutely agree with what you've said. I've probably taken out a lot of the detail on a particular event that we did. And we, as there's nothing under guerrilla marketing, if we did something like a flash mob, we would put it in there. So community magazines, we would identify it. Rotunda, you're absolutely right, we would put in there. So that could be as long as and short as the campaign determines, really. In terms of whether it's an event or a project, internally we control events as well as the marketing, and we do have an ops meeting on a Tuesday, so we probably do need to have a little bit more involvement in the project marketing, although we are very confident in people like Mark Webster, for instance, who's the countryside manager, who puts in lots of good content onto our social media sites and things like that. So it's a balancing act of trying to we don't want to stifle his enthusiasm and his performance in terms of getting those kind of stories out. But what this campaign check sheet is a record of what we've done. So we need to actually get from Mark where he's posting in it, where the posters are going, you know, that kind of stuff. So if in the future we have a debrief on a particular event and councillors are involved in that project, they can say to us, well, let's see your marketing campaign check sheet and let's see where we feel we've fallen or actually outperformed. So it's just a checklist that we can scrutinise and report against at a future date if we need to debrief and on a particular event. So we can add and detract those things depending on what the campaign should be. So hopefully that answers any queries on that.
Thank you. Just on that, David, you touched on debrief. It might be useful on the final page, the marketing campaign, and it sets out schedules to actually put a window, a date in there at the end of each major event for a debrief anyway, as just as practice.
Yeah, as part of the process, absolutely. Thank you. I'll put that in.
Thank you. And the only other thing, Terry picked up on the rotundas, but I think possibly a resource that will be well used, but we won't directly have access to, is the community notice boards around the town. And that's where we as members come into play. We can circulate that because obviously, you know, staffing's a finite resource, but we're within our communities on a day-to-day basis, so we can very much pick that up and support what we're trying to do. Is there anybody else would like to comment on this particular item? Okay, so given the feedback, what would be the next steps going forward with this, David?
Well, we've taken on board the points that councillors have made in this meeting. If you digest the form at a later date and have other suggestions, then feel free to contact us. But I would just see this now as we're not seeking approval; we're just seeking observations and input, and we can grow this checklist as we develop our overall marketing. But most of those points you've made, I've scribbled down on this campaign checklist, and we'll include them. So hopefully we'll cover all our bases.
And the only other thing I would say, I'm aware that there's a range of experience regarding marketing, and people sometimes get that mixed up with sales. They're two very different disciplines. I know from my very limited experience, just because every avenue is listed here doesn't mean that will fit with every campaign. It's about selecting the best arrows out of your quill to land your targets. So this is a suite of options open to the team, isn't it? And we'll add and take away or deduct those kind of areas where we can mark it, because the last thing we want to do is to plaster, 50 pages of things in folders and things like that. So we will determine what we see fit as the best marketing campaign for that project or event, and we'll determine one of these campaign checklists. But the good thing about it is if there's any query in the future, you can, reflect on the campaign list that we've decided to use. So we've got something to go back to, especially in the debrief. And the debrief is very important, and it's something we don't do often enough, I'm afraid. Yeah, a useful tool, I think. Okay, is there any, just before I close this item out, is there any further comment from colleagues? Okay, well, thank you all. That's going to move us very nicely on to item 508/20, and that's events. Is that are we giving you a rest, David? Is it young Tom, or back to you? Well, Tom's going to cover some of these in his marketing report, which I think is next up. But I just want to just take the first part of it, which unfortunately COVID-19 continues to hamper our plans to develop any event seemingly. I mean, we had some events planned for Christmas,
we're still hopeful that if restrictions are lifted to the extent that we can deliver some of those events after December the 2nd, would be very grateful for everybody involved. But it's looking very unlikely, to be honest. So we are now ramping up our virtual plans, and tomorrow we will be filming another selection of Christmas messages that we can schedule and put out over the upcoming period. So it's a difficult time, and it's very frustrating when you get involved, especially associate partners, to try and help us with events, and we have to disappoint them after long periods of rehearsal or putting time and effort into campaigning for those kind of things. Pleased to note, though, that Chilterns and ourselves have again teamed up this year to deliver the Letters to Santa scheme. And again, we will be filming some messages tomorrow in terms of that. It actually goes live on Monday the 16th, so this forthcoming Monday. And families and children will be able to draft their letters and put it in the big red pillar box outside the Carnegie, or digitally send their letters in via an email address that Chilterns will manage. Hopefully this year we're videoing a little message from Santa. So if they do provide us with an email address, we can send them a nice message back to say that they are on the good list, and they'll hopefully look forward to Christmas Eve when the big man comes around. Yeah, so it's a difficult one, but we're persevering with as many virtual type scenarios as we can. In terms of past events, really the biggest event that we're able to deliver in the last few weeks is the Mayor's Pumpkin Carving fundraiser on the 23rd of October. The Mayor had a pre-event target of £300, and we were all pleased to report that donations on the night equaled £620. So a good return on a good evening, actually. And a good sport was the Mayor, as because we achieved the 300, he did get the gunking of the pumpkin inners, as well as the custard pies and the sponges. I mean, we went to town on him. Yeah, so hopefully the Mayor thinks that it was a good evening as well, and we did achieve a good target for him.
I've never known the Mayoress to be so happy.
No, I'm sure she's still smiling, Mark.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Any comments, colleagues? Okay. David, just where everyone's playing catch up. Great that we're able to do something in these difficult times around Christmas, particularly for the young people. I suppose that's going to be a very intense promotional campaign on that, given that we're into the second week of November already. I presume the team have got that in hand.
Yeah, in terms of Letters to Santa, Chilterns are very proactive as well. They're helping us a lot, as they did last year, with the administration of it and the promotion of it. I know Carla Bartlett from Chilterns is actively involved in promoting that in the various different media and community magazines. So hopefully we'll have just as we did last year, hopefully we'll have a good uptake. And together with the digital messages that we'll send out, the children will be excited that Christmas hasn't fallen victim of the virus, and we're still trying to keep the Christmas spirit up.
Chris, have you got your hand up, or is that from a previous occasion?
It must be from a previous occasion.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to comment, please? Okay.
I saw there was a comment, Chair, to say about Christmas lights switch on. Again, it's unlikely. It's planned for a week later. So the switch on will actually happen Friday, December the 4th. But again, that's very close to December the 2nd, so it's unlikely that the restrictions will be relaxed enough to actually do a physical switch on. So again, we're working on a live stream and virtual event on that. So again, it's difficult times, but we're trying to do the best we can to try and keep everybody's spirits up. So we will do something, but it's all going to be around the virtual basis of it.
Okay, thank you. Terry.
Thank you, Chair. It's not quite VEM, David, but seeing as we're on Christmas, I wanted to take the opportunity. Am I correct in thinking we, as a council, are still going ahead with the usual Christmas lights and trees? I believe that to be the case. Lots of towns I know have scrapped entirely in some cases or scaled back. Whilst we can't do the big crowds and the big events, we are still doing the lights and the trees. Is that right?
Yeah, we absolutely are doing the lights and the trees. I think the trees get delivered, excuse me, next week. And again, that's a good media opportunity to make sure that people realise that those trees and lights are going up. So when the truck delivers the small trees that go into the wall brackets that line Wells Street and King Street and some of the other smaller streets, then we will take some photos and make sure people realise that. The lights, I think we've set it back a week, and I think the lights go up. In fact, I think the lights may go up at the end of next week, or they'll start work on setting them up. But absolutely, the lights and the little Christmas trees will definitely be adorning the streets of Thetford coming this Christmas. So we've not thrown everything in. We're trying to keep the Christmas spirit alive.
Thank you. Very good to hear. Thank
you. Excellent stuff. All right. Well, we have nobody else on this item, so I'm going to move it on to item 509/20, which is over to young Tom, marketing reports.
Right then, so into the marketing report, which we would have gone out to everyone. As David's already mentioned, the pumpkin carving event went really well in terms of results. We saw over double the income that we expected. And the actual broadcast, which was a first for us, this sort of format of event, running a broadcast directly off a computer within the venue, went a lot better than, honestly, a first attempt should have gone. And I'm pretty pleased with how it went. And the actual event page ended up reaching over 4,000 people, and we at various points during the night we had 1,800 people tuning in at some point. Maybe not for long, but that's a lot of eyes on the broadcast itself. So as mentioned, we hit £620. Unfortunately, I also was on the receiving end of a plate of whipped cream, which took ages to get out of the beard, but it is what it is for charity. In addition to that, we've also prepared the large novelty checks to give to the charities, which is then extra, good publicity for the mayor himself. In terms of other actions that have happened during the past month, obviously, as mentioned by David earlier as well, we've now gone into a second lockdown. So we've been preparing the Christmas videos, which again I don't need to touch on because it's already been dealt with by David earlier. Done most of my job for me. But we've been preparing for that on that front and making sure we're ready to go as soon as the lockdown hit. So I think in terms of that front, we've been quite well prepared. Another action we've taken in regards to consultations, which is not strictly them, but we've been looking at using a different site. So rather than using SurveyMonkey, for the most recent consultation, we used Google Forms. Which allows us a bit more customization and a bit more accessibility, and allows us to generally just have a better handle on the data that we receive. And it's generally an easier form for the public to fill out, which hopefully is going to work out because it seems that we've received, I would assume as of now we would have received something in the realm of 600 different bits of feedback off the public, which is pretty grand.
Thank you, Tom. Just before we go any further, can I ask colleagues, if you're not speaking, to mute your mic, because I can hear conversations in the background.
I'm sorry, that's probably in the office.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay, Tom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tom.
And then, I mean, I'm not actually finished just yet.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah. In terms of the monthly observations, we've seen quite a lot of different views, different bits of online media that have seen a lot of views. The Honoured Citizen video, which yourself was part of, has seen over 5,200 views and over 900 interactions. As I mentioned earlier, the pumpkin carving event and the consultation had a lot. The tree planting advertisement put out by Mark Webster has received over 3.5 views, and is admittedly likely was helped by being shared by Breckland Council, which is quite a big organisation to share our media. And another one that's a little bit harder to keep track of the exact influence, but as obviously October was Black History Month, the post we put out ended up receiving a bit of attention, and a article was put out on Huffington Post, which is quite a big online newspaper, which featured Dr. Alan Minns in the article, which was most likely found by the fact that more recently ourselves and Ancient House Museum and other bodies put out some news articles about him, which is, it's good to see that a wider audience maybe hear about our history. And the post from this week, the Remembrance video on the live stream for Remembrance Sunday, has received a huge amount of reach. Has received over 2,500 engagements alone, even a few hours ago, it's now outdated, but 12,500 reached people, which is pretty big numbers. It's been shared a lot of reactions, a lot of general very positive feedback. That is about it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, thank you for that update. I'm now going to open the floor to questions or comments, colleagues. Terry.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. First of all, congratulations to everybody involved in the pumpkin carving event. I did watch it at home. It looked like everyone was having good fun. I was quite pleased that COVID wasn't around when I was mayor, because I just got to have a nice 80s disco for my event. So I was glad I didn't have to be anything chucked at me. So well done to everybody that took part in that. Quick well done as well, Tom, for the videos. When was it? Sunday, the Remembrance streamed live. I think that was very well received. And I think I've seen some videos either today or yesterday, they all blur together, about some other Remembrance stuff. I think it was today, actually, and they look really well received. The question I'll ask, and I hope you don't take it as a criticism, but reading your marketing report, what marketing have we done in the last month that isn't digital?
So in regards to not digital, again, as I mentioned in the past time we had this meeting, it's very difficult for me to quantify offline marketing due to the fact there's no direct numbers attached to it. That said, I have been keeping the rotunda up to date. If you look at it at the moment, you'll find that there's currently there is an advertisement for the Santa's, well, I mean, assuming it's still going to go ahead, but the Santa's Grotto that's been set up at the Childborough Centre. Which was put in there immediately after the pumpkin carving event. But in terms of our flyering and the other things that we were doing prior to COVID, those of course have not resumed, because there's no events for us to really advertise at this point in time.
Okay, I'm going to keep making that point, if you don't mind, each month, because there's a whole thousands of people in this town do not engage regularly with social media or the internet, and they are not being kept informed about all of the work that the town council does. I understand the restrictions and that sort of thing. Obviously, Facebook's very good at throwing out stats, but if I happen to be scrolling through my Facebook, it will record me as having watched the video, even though I might not have even looked at it at all and registered in my head that it's Thetford Town Council's videos. So stats can be a little bit misleading, so do bear that in mind. But I do want us, when we think about marketing as a council, that we think about the whole community and not just those that rely on digital means to receive stuff. So I appreciate it's a particular gift of yours, the videos and that sort of thing, but please just don't forget there are other forms of marketing. Thank you.
Yeah, I won't be doing so. And just want to clarify, I understand what you mean about the scrolling past the video and it marking it as a view. This is why when I do the marketing report, I make sure to note both reaches and engagements, because reaches is what you've said, and engagements is the people who have actually stopped and interact with the video in some form, even if it's just clicking on it or clicking on the post or something like that. So that's why I include both bits of data, even though the engagements might on paper look a little bit less impressive. I'd also like to mention that while I'd love to take credit for the video on the Sunday, that was actually not me filming it, that would be Joe.
Well done to Joe.
Excellent. Is there any other colleagues that wish to comment on this item? Okay.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come in just quickly? Yeah, I do take Terry's point in terms of using other means other than social media. Social media at the moment is probably the quick turn to, because things change so quickly and you can get your message out nice and quickly, and also it doesn't hit the budget too much, and we are in a, as you will see in a second, in a bit of a predicament with our budget as we're not generating the income that we forecast. But we did supply some copy to About Thetford for the changes to the Remembrance Sunday commemorations. So that went out. But again, you've got to meet deadlines on those things, and if things change at the drop of a hat, as they seem to at the minute with restrictions and stuff, sometimes you miss those deadlines and can't actually fulfill it. But yeah, we absolutely understand what you're saying, and yeah, keep reminding us, and we will have them recorded on our marketing campaign checklist, so you can reflect on those things as well. But yeah, we need to.
Thank you, David. I can see someone's got their hands up, but I can't actually see a name against it. So whoever you are, make yourself known.
It's me again. Sorry, I think that's probably not see a name because it's under my name from above. I take the replies from Tom and Dave, and I thank them for it. Remembrance is a really good example because I requested a press release about the changes to Remembrance because I was fortunate enough to know that there would be changes by virtue of being a councillor. But unless I missed something, I don't think there was anything on the Town Council's Facebook or website announcing that there would be changes. I mean, lots of people assume there would be, obviously, because of COVID. But I think it's a really good example where we are not being clear enough with our communication as a council. I don't know if you saw, Chair, there was various people on Facebook at the weekend asking what was going on in relation to Remembrance. I was the only one that stuck my head above the parapet to sort of explain why the council had taken the decision it had taken. And I just think we could be an awful lot better as a council. We do some really good work in Thetford, and you know, we need to be clearer and use different means of communication. I just think we're missing out. I would go as far as to say brand Thetford Town Council isn't particularly strong amongst members of the public, but it should be.
Thank you for your comments, Terry. I did see the comments actually on social media. I know from running events within the town myself that you will never reach everybody, and there are those that no matter what you do, you could put a notice board outside on their front lawn, and they still tell you they never see it and knew about the event. But you know, we can only do what we can do and push forward in being proactive in promoting our events and exhausting every avenue. So when we get those challenges, we're in a position to say, well, actually, we've done X, Y, and Z. Where else would you have added the additional marketing? Just as an aside, Tom, I don't want to cause any friction amongst colleagues, but it was your line manager that made the donation to have you cream pied. But it was a very good event, and I was still removing pumpkin seeds for a couple of days later. Yeah, and Tom, I'm going to make a comment to you that I made at the last VEM meeting. I appreciate actually exactly what you're saying, 100% correct. The offline marketing, it's very difficult to get tangible measures on such a format, whereas social media offers you measures. But nevertheless, I think it's something we probably need to pursue. We do have a population where some don't engage with social media for various reasons, some do. We just need to make sure we're reaching all. But you're quite right, it is difficult. It'd be unreasonable for us to expect you to produce reach and organic reach and engagement figures for offline marketing per se. So I think we're conscious of that, Tom. Do I have anybody else that wishes to comment at this stage? Okay, well, in the absence of hands, thank you for your report, Tom. I'll move the agenda on. And that moves us to 510/20, which is our budget review. And that's to review the month end October 2020. Over to you, David.
Yeah, can I just say, the budget that has been circulated before the meeting reflects this is such a difficult time. Between the two lockdowns, we were slowly trying to engage with our regular hirers at the very least that were coming back and using the venues. Certainly the Carnegie, as you know, the Guildhall is currently being refurbished. So we are taking that advantage of getting works done in the Guildhall. But with the Carnegie, we were welcoming back our regulars, and then the decision to go into the second lockdown has wiped out, well, everything that was building back up again. So we're back to square one, and we totally understand why those decisions are made. The only foreseeable hire, if restrictions are lifted or not lifted, is the blood donor session, which we honour, and they are coming back in on the 1st of December and the 28th of December over the next couple of months. But yeah, it's really difficult. It's not just difficult to plan events. It's difficult to even forecast what the future holds. So you've had the budget circulated. The figures are there. They are grim reading, but I don't know whether there's any comments that any councillors have got.
I will open it up, colleagues. Okay, I'm not sure if my mic's not working. Does anybody have any? Thank you, Terry.
I assume everyone else has gone to sleep, so in the absence of anyone else asking anything, I'll ask another one. I'm at risk of sounding like a broken record, David, but where are we at with the conversation we've had in previous months about having personnel-related figures attached to this?
So the last conversation I had with the finance officer was that he was doing some work, and I caught sight of the work that he was doing. It wasn't just VEM that he was doing that work. It was across the piece, across the whole spectrum of the council business and staff allocations to that. I know Alan has got figures, but I'm not sure whether they're going to personnel first before they're released out to the individual committees to make sure that they're happy with how we cross-charge, if you like, various different committees. Because, I mean, the VEM staff don't just work in venues events. Marketing, for example, works across the piece, and so does events. I mean, there's events for civic, in terms of civic events, as well as, so there has to be a percentage breakdown of where staff work, and then you take it on the other side to the works team, which are controlled by another committee, which is ALP, Amenities, Land and Property. When we do events, that staff then supports VEM events. So again, they would work across the piece. Now I'm talking in general terms, in normal terms, because clearly those events are not happening, and some of the examples I've given are not happening at the moment. But it's the way we try and look at how we deploy staff across the whole business of the council, and as long as we can reflect that in a fair and equitable way, then we will have some of those figures come back to committees in the future, even if it's an underline, as we've suggested in the past. So I will speak to Alan in terms of whether that's going to go to personnel, and hopefully when we return in January for our next meeting, we might have something that we can share with councillors.
Thank you.
Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from that point, I just hope we don't create too much work in terms of allocation. You know, we doing the stuff myself, I know how much time this can take you, and if you're trying to get down to timesheets and hours and all that trying of thing to allocate costs on a monthly basis, we are going to create work which potentially, you know, I think Terry's right in we do need to have a one eye on the costs of running a department as such. But I don't think we want to get down to too much detail, because I think you're just creating work, whereas we're going to be, you know, really tight with staff as it is.
Thank you, Stuart. I don't know if you want to respond to that. Carl, I'll just ask you a question if you wish to speak. I weren't clear in your message.
Thank you, Chair. I know I'm having some problems here, so I missed a little bit of the conversation as my internet is slow and it keeps me logging in and out. In relation to the budget, I don't know, as I was logged out, I don't know if it was mentioned, the difference in allocating the funds from whether the Carnegie or the Guildhall, is that being addressed? Sorry, I just was logged out for a bit.
No, I'm aware you're having internet connection issues. David, are you able to pick that piece up?
Yeah, just to reassure Councillor Barretto that work is being done, and hopefully when we return to committees in January, then hopefully we'll be able to present it in a format that councillors will appreciate and accept. So Alan is doing some work on it at the moment, but it is looking at not just VEM committee, but across all committees and all staff. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to reflect that in the January meeting. The only other thing I would say about the budget is we are trying to keep costs down as much as we can, but there will be some additional costs that we will have to expend in terms of events around Christmas. We usually allocate probably a third of the whole budget to our Christmas lights and celebrations. We've downsized that, if you like, so it's more likely to be you know, 15-20% of our events budget, but it's something that we are going to have to look at, unless the restrictions and the lockdown restrictions get even more severe, and then we won't need to do some of the things that we've got planned, and it will literally just be a virtual Christmas activity. We're looking to try and put in some additional lights over and above what the ALP have allocated to the street lights, so we'll try and light some of the buildings. So when people do their daily exercise, or they do come down to do their essential shopping and walk through the town, it will feel Christmassy, if nothing else. So there will be there's a small amount of money we're allocating to improving the lighting of the buildings, and that's King's House and the Guildhall. We've got the external works that will probably, the compound fencing will go up hopefully in the next 2 weeks outside the Guildhall. And we are going to invest in some large banners which will have a Christmas theme to try and take away that sort of industrial look about the corner of our heart of the town, the marketplace. So so there will be a small amount of money that we will expend in terms of those events, but nothing too drastic, I hope.
Carla, was you looking to come back?
Yes, please. I'm sorry if I missed a little bit of the conversation. I'm going to ask anyways. I've seen on the report of priority projects that came with the email about the extension possibly of the tea room from the guild hall and investment on the outside area alongside other priority investments like upgrading the Carnegie and a few other bits. I don't know if you guys already discussed this, as I missed a bit of the meeting. If not, where are we standing in regards to making decisions of those things? Are we deciding today, or is this going to be postponed again? And if it is decided today, sorry to
interrupt, Carla, but that's the next agenda item, so we'll cover that in a second. You haven't missed any of the discussions around that, I can assure you.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you. I'll wait.
So I suspect I might be the final comment on the budget, David. Obviously, the significant impact is the loss of higher income in both the Carnegie and the Guildhall going over the last 6-7 months. Do we have a plan, even if it's a phased plan, for 2021 that we can pull off the shelf to hit the ground running, subject to government guidance, so we can, improve our financial position going forward?
Yeah, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, Mark, everybody is in the same boat, and it's not deterring the fact that the hirers that may have been disappointed enough to cancel their events, that they've just thrown in the towel. For instance, we do a lot of dance shows at Christmas at the Carnegie. There's several dance academies and studios that use our facilities. And we honestly thought that we could deliver one of them in particular. They worked really hard to try and ensure that the audiences were restricted and we had safe distancing and things like that. And clearly the latest restrictions don't allow that to happen. And the individual hirer has said, well, what I'll do is I'm hoping that things change. She's been very optimistic, I'm sure, and she's rescheduled that event for February. I think it's sometime in February. Now, it's in the lap of the gods, really, as to whether, we're going to come out of these restrictions anytime soon. So it's difficult to plan. But when we do, certainly the weekend bookings for events, we will hit the ground running because as the events are cancelling, they're just rebooking for a particular date that they feel confident with. Some have rebooked on several occasions, to be fair. So hopefully when we do come out of it, we will have a good higher use of our facility and we can start generating income again. And also in terms of some of the events, I mean, I reported last month that we were supposed to be doing the Heidi High show here at the Carnegie, and the guys that we were partnering with that were going to deliver that production have rehearsed. They've got it down, and as soon as restrictions are lifted and we've got a date that's an opportune time, we will present that event in the future. And again, it will be all about trying to market effectively in short notice. But certainly when restrictions are lifted, we will have a full hire list, I'm sure.
Thank you. I think just while we're in such a fluid situation, it'd be useful to have that as an update at a committee, just how COVID's impacting upon what we provide and what actions we see going forward. Just to note, really, that'd be quite useful for committee to understand the position going forward. But thank you for that. Do I have anybody else wishes to comment on this item? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move you on to item 511/20, which is capital projects, and that's to discuss and agree and prioritise the capital expenditure projects. Would you like to open this conversation up, David, and then we colleagues can jump in?
Yeah, so we did look at the agenda forward planning a few months ago, and we scheduled this monthly meeting to look at some of the capital projects that we have discussed on numerous occasions over the years and months, and the chair was keen to try and bring that back to the table and to see whether we had any opportunity of rediscussing some of the opportunities and at least looking to try and get them into a capital project schedule, rather than just leave them in the ether and on the back burner and never really tackling actually developing those projects and priorities. So we've looked at, and the document has been circulated before the meeting. So there are 5 particular projects that we've discussed. Some of them, well, there's one item 4 that I wanted to put in there, because we're doing a lot of work at the Guildhall, and local authorities are being pushed to develop an environmental strategy, and the Guildhall is heated by a very antiquated boiler system, and when we have to look at that, it will need to be replaced and a new system installed. Now, clearly, that's going to be an expensive process. So the discussion around this item is not necessarily to look at how we budget it for the upcoming year, because clearly there's going to be some restraints and restrictions going forward in these times. But it's at least looking at maybe when in the future we can tackle that, and to actually put down some actions to try and achieve that maybe in 3-4 years' time. So we have a program to work to, not necessarily knee-jerking and delivering all of these capital projects. There are clearly some that we may want to do in 2021-22, but again, as the decision required says, to receive and discuss the circulated report and approve any VEM priority projects for 2021-22 and beyond. But clearly there are budget restrictions that will allow us to do that in the immediate future.
Thank you. I will open that out to comment. Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as David knows, I've always been very keen to make improvements to both Guildhall and Carnegie, and I think there's a couple there which we definitely should be going ahead with straight away, because there will be income generation situations following from it, such as obviously the Guildhall tea room. We need to make the most of that facility that we're putting in place. So I think that by using the outdoor space, subject to weather, obviously, it's something, but I think we're all getting a little more used to al fresco dining as a result of COVID. So I think we ought to be pursuing that one, because the cost I don't think is going to be that great, but there will be potential income generated if you can get it moving. The inside of the Guildhall, the panel chair storage, I think is very good to get moving. We'll tidy that up. We know we've got storage issues within that facility, and we're now doing a great deal to the toilets and the entrances to the Guildhall. So we do need to make it a bit more attractive for users, which if we can store away some of the chairs and also get the acoustics sorted, I think again it gives it much more of a desirable venue for people to use. So income would follow from that. The other ones, I think we don't have the money to do immediately. The Carnegie entrance, yes, it does look bland and plain, but will you get any more people through the door? I think because you've got a venue that's quite unique in the town centre and of its size, you probably wouldn't. But if we are going to do something, let's do it right rather than try and tinker with it. We did a short-term fix on the apron by putting some tarmac there, but obviously, I think the whole thing needs to be looked at rather than just either putting a ramp or some steps in there. I think the whole apron needs to be brought into place. And then the heating, I'm aware of the problems with the heating in there, and yes, that's a long-term aspiration to get done, but doesn't mean we can't be looking into what the right answer is. for that. So let's get going on some of these things, and from a committee point of view, support the officers, but also chivvy them along, because I think we do need to start getting these things moving. Thank you.
I got Chris, then Terry.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I would really love to improve the Carnegie entrance area. It's a tad cold, and the most important one, in my opinion, is to refurbish and maximise the bar area. This is where lots of the income comes from, is in the Carnegies with the bar. It needs to be as efficient and suitable for use as it can be, and this is something we should really invest in my opinion. Thank you.
Terry.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with anything on the list. I'm always in favour of us having as much information as possible. So if David and the guys can go away and get quotes and ideas and that sort of thing, all the better for it, I think is really useful. There's one on there in particular, obviously the heating and air con system. One would hope that there might be some sort of grant funding opportunities for that sort of thing, making it more energy efficient. So if we've got prices and information ready when these opportunities present themselves, we can react more quickly to them and apply for grants and that sort of thing. So I'm all for getting a bit more information and responding and prioritising accordingly. Thank you.
Carla.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points following on what Councillor Wright and the other said. In regards to the outside area of the tea room, I do agree that we are turning to an era with alfresco dining is more popular, and I'm fully in favour of that. However, if we look into the new COVID regulations, part of what the councils have done is to open the pavements in the open areas for people to extend. So there's some degrees of social distancing. Some people now allowed to have licenses to extend their sitting areas towards the outside, outside the door. So that seems as a strategy to work during this period of lockdown. It gives people social distancing enough, and it allows the business to expand outside their doors when the weather is good for it. Because of the majority of the year, the weather is uncertain, as we know it. I think priority to investment is indoors, because then we can operate it and cash in, maximize the income of the space year round. So my priorities would be actually, make sure that the dining, the tea room in the Guildhall is all right, is in good condition and proper to attract people to its use. But then to actually, as Chris said, to actually invest on the bar area of the Carnegie, because there are a lot of hires, and that is one of the big proportions of income to us as a council. That income is important for our budgeting. And considering that a lot of the things have been cancelled and the income now is really restricted with the whole COVID situation, I think improving, not necessarily restructuring the whole thing, but tidying up and make it look more appealing and more functional in the bar area would be an add-on, be a priority. In regards to the outside of the Carnegie, yes, in the long term, some work can be done to it. But I think, given the amount of difficulty and the COVID restrictions and everything, limited amount of budgets, I don't think it's necessarily a priority at the moment. So I think the inside and the bar, which is the area where people use, and to make it functional and profitable for by hiring it would be a priority to me, and not necessarily the other ones. That's my point of view anyways. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda.
Yeah, I am still awake. I've been listening. Really, it's number one, to improve and develop an outdoor space for the Guildhall tea rooms. I wouldn't have said that was a capital project. I would have put that in our other priorities. Because that's not big money, is it? It's like tables, chairs. What else would be needed in that area? Other than that, I wholeheartedly agree that we need to do this and set our budgets. Because if we go down to number 4, then we need to start putting money away as soon as possible each year for that heating and conditioning.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Well, I feel a bit old now, because I can remember actually looking at the tenders for the Carnegie air conditioning tender. And I suspect the Guilder will offer some unique spec issues, being a listed building. Looking at the list, David, I actually think, everyone as a personal preference for which way we go, the list actually pretty much says everyone's comfortable with that. I personally would have added 6 projects to it. I personally, I would like to have seen us identify in the short or medium term a kiosk on Castle Park, adjacent, where we have power supply already, to add to the amenity within the town, similar to the kiosk that we have down at the School Lane, by the mill. But that said, I'm also going to make comment on improve the Carnegie entrance area. I think someone said earlier, nobody's going to come in to the building because we've improved the area. But we have difficulty, I know from comments I received, we have difficulty getting people into the Carnegie, and they don't see the amount of work that we've put in improving the inside, because it's not the most beautiful of buildings. So it doesn't draw them in. And we've got to remember the place where it works. We're looking to deliver events, themed parties, Christmas parties for businesses, weddings. I can think of at least 2 locations within the town where, using the fairy tale parlance, they look like Cinderella, and the Carnegie passes as one of the ugly sisters in comparison. It is a building typical of its type, a 1968 municipal building. So I actually wouldn't underplay the improvement of not just the entrance area, but the apron. I think it was Stuart that mentioned the actual apron. We're quite fortunate in having quite a wide area. But I think going forward, we probably need to identify what we see as the key projects for next year. What we see going forward for next year, and those projects that we plot into our plan over the next 3 to 4 or 5 years accordingly. Stuart, you've got your hands up.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, 2 points. One is, yes, we ought to be putting the kiosk on any priority list to maximise the benefits for the Castle Park. I assume that would be an out thing, but under the new regime, David, can you guide us where that would sit? Because if it is going to sit under this, then let's put it on the list, because I think we ought to be developing that as a facility to add to the offer at Castle Park. The apron, what I was trying to get there, Mark, is that we don't just want to do a lick and polish on the entrance. We do want to do it properly. Bring the apron, guide people up from the river. The idea of a 2-toned pathway, possibly in blue, to link people from the riverside up to the entrance to the Carnegie. Green walls, just to soften the hardness of it. I'm all for that, but would rather get a proper plan in place rather than just say we're going to do some steps on the Carnegie, because I think it does need a job that's probably done.
Thank you, Stuart. Is there any? I think has everyone had their comment? David, how would you like to go forward on this? Because I think widely there's support. Everyone's comfortable with the projects brought forward, taking into account, Stuart, I think that's a really valid comment you make, Stuart, about not just the entrance as well. How would you like to go forward on this? What steer are you looking for?
Well, firstly, really good discussion. That's what I wanted. Lots of input from councillors. And I think where we were coming from, Mark, when we first discussed this, is not just to talk up some options of green walls or let's improve the entrance to the Carnegie, but actually let's get it into a plan. But clearly we've got to look at these, and I will add 6, even though the retail pod could be part of the commercial outlook of VEM. Open spaces are going to be looked at. King Square, Market Square is likely to be VEM. The green open spaces, so Castle Park, Melford Common, Barnham Common, would still sit without. or whatever that committee is going to be called for post April of next year. But it might be, you know, a cross-committee project. So the thing is, what we need to do is to think about what are the achievables and what are the long-term projects. There is not one of these projects, apart from 5, that we have an opportunity to make a decision on in the very near future, simply because 5 is affordable, even though it's absolutely essential, because if we're developing the Guildhall to be another premier venue with the potential of the Carnegie, then we need to improve the acoustic sound quality levels in the large court for DEFRA, which has always been an issue. We've all experienced that. So, but other ones, we just aren't in a position at the moment to even contemplate on making a decision on delivering them, because we haven't got any firm costs. A lot of the costs that were in the report were indicative of, you know, estimated based on other scenarios, such as the stepped entrance that was quoted a couple of years ago outside the Carnegie. In terms of the Guildhall Tea Room, the idea of that space is a capital project, because we have invested as a council in the mural on the gable end of the Shambles. The rear of the Guildhall and the Shambles is probably the ugliest part of the space of the Carnegie and Guildhall. So it would be quite a major project to try and develop and screen that. But I take Brenda's point. In the first instance, when we hopefully will get the Guildhall open in April of next year, when the external works are finished, part of the bid that we had with the Heritage Lottery Fund was to provide lots of different events on the marketplace as well as inside the Guildhall. And it will be just a case on those events. We've done it in the past with night markets, etc. It will maybe a small investment in some tables and chairs to facilitate those events on those times. But what we're talking about is a bigger project with a dedicated area that will improve the whole concept of that space in and around the Shambles and the Guildhall. So that's not something that's going to happen quickly. It's going to have to be planned. There's going to have to be surveys, etc. But what we're trying to say is this something that we want to persevere with and develop it into a full-blown costed plan? Otherwise, let's take it off the list and forget about it. That's the steer that I'd like to have. Terry's right in terms of the heating and aircon, and as it's suggested in the report, this is a bigger thing for the council to contemplate going, and it's not just going to be the Guildhall. It's going to be St Peter's, it's going to be the Carnegie, and funding hopefully will come with that if we're being dictated as local authorities to address our environmental issues and strategy. So again, that's a longer term project. But in the short term, the bar area, if you are going to look at option 1 on the circulated report, we looked at that simply because when we are really, really busy and we need 3 staff behind the bar, it's quite a restricted space and there's pinch points, especially around the till. But there's an easy way of rectifying that with a bit of thought in terms of developing workstations. So we're not actually spending big money in moving the footprint of the bar. So it is a bit of a cosmetic job of painting and reshelving, probably a new counter, still utilising the same shutters. If we were going to go with option 2, which was actually to lift the bar and move it into a different place, then you're talking about big investment. And again, would you generate the kind of income to justify that? If 150 people come to the Carnegie, they have got a determined amount of money in their pocket to spend, and it's all about trying to improve the service, not necessarily we'll get any extra spend from those individuals. So again, the bar area is something that we have developed over the last few months in lockdown, so it has been extended. We can look to develop the look of it and bring it up to scratch with decoration and things like that. But I think that the bar area and the install of the acoustic panels are within our budget means. The others are longer term projects. But what I'm after is, are they the right projects to go for? And are they worth the time to invest in working these up to an achievable plan? But I think it's been a good discussion, and certainly, you know, it's encouraging that that the councillors are keen to try and improve those facilities.
Yeah, and indeed, some of these projects have sat on the wish list for far too long. So I think this is a necessary piece of work. Carla, you had your hand up again. Hi, Carla. Hi, Carla. I'm not sure if you have any internet issues, but you had your hand up.
She still looks as if she's muted, Chair, or maybe having internet problems. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, if she's able to join in when she sorts that out, that'd be great. Okay, so thank you for the addition. I think you're quite right. I'm glad to say we've got the Chair of ALP with us today. So if I've stepped on ALP committee's toes with the kiosk project, I do apologise, but I think that would probably, you know, I'm pretty confident that neither committee would want to work in silos. And if it needs to be across the committees, you know, if it's the benefit to the town, we can make it happen at whatever time scale. Colleagues, you know, you have 6 projects there. I don't think anyone's really disagreed that they're not projects worth pursuing. It now comes around to almost an order to which we identify them as our priorities. I've heard the bar area mentioned by at least 3 of us. I'm looking for a little bit of guidance from the officers how you would like us to identify this going forward, so we can give you a clear steer. So, was your hand going up there? Was you having a scratch?
I'm quite happy to speak if you allow me. I just think they'll probably give us a bit of guidance in terms of the short-term things. I think the whole thing still needs to be, you know, taken forward, all 6 of them. The bar is whether option 1 or 2. I think coming back with some further detail on it would be useful, but put it as a short-term priority, and the Guildhall panelling and acoustics as a short-term priority. So they're your 2 number 1s. Heating, you know, is dependent on funding, so let's put that on the back burner, excuse the pun. And similarly, let's be looking at getting some designs, plans, ideas for the Carnegie, but let's keep revisiting this rather than leave it there for another year for it to fester. So I think that we've got 2 number 1s, and the rest can be done as the medium term.
So, thank you. Just to clarify that, so I think that's, thank you for that input. The option to refurbish the bar and the other option to be the panel, chair and table storage would be your number 1s, correct?
And acoustics, yeah, in the Guildhall. And
the acoustics, sorry. Probably because of the size of the project, the Carnegie entrance area and the heating and air conditioning system in the Guildhall, number 3, because number 3, which will probably improve the outdoor space for Guildhall tea room at number 2. Does that seem like a accurate description?
I'm happy to go with that.
Okay, the one I've left off, colleagues, actually, is the kiosk. Just because that's a little bit unclear, that probably needs a little bit more investigation with where that exactly would sit.
Can I just come in there, Chair? If we go on to VEM forward planning as the next item, and funny enough, The item scheduled for January, which is our next meeting, actually is open space commercialism report. So maybe over the next couple of months we liaise across ALP and VEM and trying to come up with some kind of plan, because that certainly fits with that agenda item, to see what can be done and potentially moving that forward as another option 6, even if it's cross committee.
Quite happy with that. I've got Carla and Brenda have got their hands up, so over to you guys in that order.
I thank you, Chair. My apologies. Like I said, I'm struggling here in and out with the internet going weak on me, so I'm picking up bits of the conversation. So I'm going to have to apologize myself and perhaps just retire from the rest of the meeting. I just want to make a last comment in regards to these points and for long-term projects. I managed to hear part of what Councillor Wright mentioned, and I'm quite well in agreement. There's a few. And some of your points as well. There's a few immediate things we can do. There are not high-end costs. They can certainly improve the quality of the services we provide. The other ones, I think the heating and aircon, yeah, it is important. And this is something maybe we can budget on the course of 3 years and just make it as a, try to add up the cost, the cost and then eventually install those, because the environmental strategy is important and this is something that is needed. The rest I don't really see as priority, so that's it's something that can be looked at, but it doesn't necessarily need to be done in 20 up until after 21, 22 perhaps. So it's not something that we can look into it, but it's not something we should be addressed at the moment with so many priorities, so many issues with the COVID being so uncertain. I think we should focus on what is tangible, what we can do within a year, given that things are always ever changing, and leave the rest to decide at a later date. So those are my points, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to retire because every time I try to have a conversation, the internet goes down on me. So my apologies.
Thank you for your contribution, Carla. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Brenda.
Just a quick question to Dave. When we was talking about the outside of the Carnegie, within that project, was you still talking about the pods where people hire them around the back on the back skirt?
Yes, that was another project that people did discuss, and again, it's not on this list, but it again, it's something that is commercially viable, and it's something that could generate an income going forward. So again, it could be one of those longer term projects. I think hopefully, Chair, we are nearing some kind of agreement. So just to sort of reiterate, probably Carla and Stuart are on the same page by the sounds of it. So if we look at the list in front of us, the short-term projects look as if they're listed as 3 and 5.
Yep.
So the medium-term projects are 1 and 2. And I think the councillors are right. We have our plans just to sort of extend the paving area. When you're talking about improving the Carnegie entrance, we don't want to do it half-hearted. So they are quite big projects and will need a good degree of planning. And then the longer term project is number 4, which is the heating and aircon system in the Guildhall.
I would agree with that. I'm not sure. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Agree, Councillor Cannon.
Would you like that as a recommendation, Chair, or would you just like it as a point forward?
Well, we're not recommending it to full council, are we, Chris?
No, I think this is more of an action, Chris, for me and the committee to further develop these under those guidelines of short, medium, and long-term plans. So that's an action, really.
Just on that note, it'd be useful if we put timelines in against each project, just so we can hold ourselves to account where possible. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all for contributing to that. That was quite useful. Item 512/20. This is the agenda forward plan. Thank you for sharing that, David. This is just for noting, colleagues, as it's been alluded to a couple of times now. This is just to keep us all minded of our forward plan and the works coming forward. You notice that March and April, there's nothing in there at the moment, but I encourage all members of the committee to come forward and help populate the plan so we actually progressing along at a steady pace. As you can see, there's a couple of items on our January meeting when we all come back full from mince pies and turkey, and it's the open space commercialisation report and the operational plan for the Guildhall tea rooms. So we know what our main focus will be during that meeting. Quite happy to receive any comments. Excellent. I've either stunned you into silence or bored you or both. So thank you, colleagues.
Noted.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure what that was, but thank you anyway. Finally, 513/20, community engagement to discuss and agree any consultations or media release required. I'll open it up to comment, please, colleagues. That's definitely. Do I have any suggestions from the officer team?
One thing I will say is that we are coming to the end of the Guildhall internal works. And I know Councillor Jeremy a couple of meetings ago was talking about trying to keep residents updated with the progress, especially as it's all going behind closed doors at the moment. So they're not in there, they're not seeing it. So, but we are nearing the end of it, but we're also starting the second phase. So there's a double whammy there. So we will talk about what we are looking to do over the next 3 months. There should be a deadline of the end of March to complete all the external works. But we will give some updated reports of what's been going on behind closed doors, how the facilities have been improved. We've got to be mindful that we have to sort of tease them because there's still going to be little or no access to the Guildhall while the external works go on. So it's almost promising something and then taking it away for a good quarter of the year because the external works will take 12 weeks. But it's just keeping people updated and hopefully wet their whistle that just as we did with the Carnegie, the investment that we've made in the Guildhall is going to vastly improve it, so they can look forward to that. The one thing that has restricted me from doing too much is when you walk through the Guildhall doors, you are met with the railing, and the railing is to be replaced, but it is it's something that you just can't get. So taking pictures of the improved facility is not great at the moment because the railing is horrible. It's terrible. So it's being replaced and it will be improved. And that's hopefully going to be done in the next few weeks. So pictures will be forthcoming.
Thank you, David. Okay, item 514/20, committee officers update. I think you might have just done that.
Yeah. So there's nothing from me on the final agenda item, but I think Terry's got his hand up.
Terry.
Yes, sorry, Chairman, I was a bit slow at typing there. Sounds great, David, the publicity around the Guildhall. I don't know if you've got sort of before and after type pictures, or if you could do some of that. I think that'd be really encouraging. And I was there for a meeting a few weeks ago in the Guildhall, and it's, you know, it looks amazing what's gone on there. And I appreciate it's not finished, but would be good to share some of that. On the sort of community engagement side, we spoke a couple of months ago about profiles of market traders. I just wondered if there's an update about that, particularly in the run up to Christmas. We want to be encouraging people to support market traders. So are there some profiles ready to go over the next few weeks on community engagement side? Thank you.
I know Tom, and I think he made an appointment with the chair, the mayor, to go out and do some additional stuff. But unfortunately, at the moment, it's one of those things where it's raining. It must be market day, and you know, casual traders are very weather dependent. They won't turn up. So the last thing we want to do is advertise a market that's only half-hearted. But we can do individual profiles. But those regular diehards, we've already done those profiles. When Mark became mayor, one of the first things he did was to visit the market and talk to our long-standing traders. You know, the fruit and veg, the fishmonger, the hardware stallholder. But we will do some more. I mean, I know one of the ones that you highlighted last month or the month before was what we refer to as Dave the Jam Man. I noticed he was back with us on Tuesday again. So, you know, he's a great one to profile. So we will, hopefully, you know, we will do that over the next couple of months. Tom is tasked with doing that. So we'll get him out there and interviewing them. Yeah, I mean, Dave, the Jam Man, actually travels up from deepest Essex. So he does, you know, a lot of these traders do travel a fair distance to come to Thetford Market. So we should be profiling them.
Thank you. Is there anything else from anybody else?
I put my hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Brenda, I do apologise. I missed that.
That's fine. You know, you can miss me anytime you like. I was just going to say, are we going to have a Christmas market of some kind, or are we just leaving it to the traders to decide what they want to do? Because I know a lot of craft stalls like to come out, don't they? Sell their wares for Christmas presents.
We have spoken to a couple of them, and we will hopefully try and get some of them. But the trouble is, Brenda, it all depends on the 2nd of December whether those restrictions will be lifted, because at the current time it is essential goods traders only. So yeah, so it really depends. But the conversation with them is that if we're able to, we will do. We provide the gazebo, so it's not going to be a great ask. It's a case of trying to get the message out that they are going to trade, and we want people to come down. But again, the circumstances need to allow that to happen, because the current restrictions don't.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with no further comment, it just leaves me to conclude the meeting and wish you all to stay safe, and thank you for your engagement today, everybody. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you in less straitened times.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Take care.